This is a production of KMmedia.pro. Welcome back to Positive Talk Radio. Our goal is simple: to explore evolving ideas one conversation at a time. So come on over into our world. I know you'll like it, because on today's show, great author of a book that is very, very powerful, and we're going to be talking about it in its entirety here in just a couple of moments. But first, I have to talk to my friend Eric, because we've mentioned this, but it bears repeating until probably, I don't know, June, because then everybody will be aware of it by then. But Positive Talk Radio and KKNW are doing something different these days, aren't we?
That's true. And hopefully people are aware by now, but it doesn't hurt to reiterate that we are streaming the show live on video and audio, not just at the regular places like 1150kknw.com and the KKNW app, but also streaming the video to YouTube and Facebook and Twitter for the KKNW accounts, and to YouTube and to Facebook for the Positive Talk Radio accounts. So many ways to catch the show live every week. And if you miss the show, you can always go back and rewatch those videos, or, of course, check out the podcast.
Absolutely. And, technology has gotten so much better than it was the first time I was here. I've mentioned it before that you used to give me a CD and that had the show on it and stuff. Now we can do it all in video, and it's all digital. It really is pretty cool.
It is. Yeah, it's very cool.
And it's great that KKNW is keeping up with the times, and I know that you do this for a lot of different shows. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that's right. And so definitely check out 1150kknw.com for many videos, and also on YouTube, our YouTube channel, because lots of people are checking it out. I saw today we had like 3,500 views of videos this month on YouTube alone, which is awesome. And we want to keep growing that number. So check us out on YouTube and Facebook and all the places.
Wow, that really is impressive. That's a good number. That's a good number right there. By the way, I've known you for going on 20 years now, and I'm not sure. Do you have a dog? Do you like dogs?
I love dogs, and I do have a dog.
Oh, what kind of dog do you have?
She's a Beagle mix, and her name is Gertie.
Oh, very good. Now, a Beagle mix, is she as energetic as a lot of Beagles are?
Well, she's about 10 years old, so
okay.
she can be energetic, but a lot of the times she's just kind of sleepy, which works out great for me.
Yeah, exactly. She used to be energetic, but now she's a little long in the tooth and is relaxing. And
she's energetic when the treats come out.
Exactly.
Same as
exactly. Me. This show is dedicated to dog lovers everywhere. Because we're going to be talking with a gentleman. His name is Brandon Wainwright, and he's an author. He's a former police officer. He is an energy worker. He's learned a lot of his trade, and it all stems from his relationship with a little 8-pound dog named Tyson. And Brandon, I want to thank you for being on the show. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. I appreciate it.
It's
good to be back.
Indeed. It's awesome to have you here. And the name of the book is Tyson's Gift. And let's talk a little bit about your 8-pound dynamo that you had at one time. His name was Tyson. How did he impact your life?
Well, so Tyson came into my life right before my wife and I got engaged, and he was sort of an unwelcome addition to our little family, because we had just worked through a bit of a rough patch, and so when she got him, I took it as, oh boy, maybe she's getting this dog to distract her from me. So I had a little insecurity about that in the beginning, but that wasn't the case at all. And he turned out just to be a real pistol. So he was a perfect prince with her. But with me, he was like a little jackal. He he was very hostile, wouldn't let me get anywhere near him, would growl, and just, but he had such a rich heart, you could tell. I felt a real connection to him, despite the fact that we weren't necessarily simpatico from the start. And I'd made it my mission over the next couple of months to try to win him over, not because I was insecure or anything, but just because I really respected him and loved him, and did everything I could to, to get him to trust me. And the thing is, he had a problem with men. That's why he just, it was something innate in him where he just had a fear of men. So once I finally did win him over, and I write about it in the book, he got sick, and he ate a bunch of junk food he wasn't supposed to eat. And what he was really just laid up, you could hear his stomach gurgling. He felt like total doggy doo. And instead of taking that as an opening to get him or hurt him or something, I wrapped my arms around him and tried to nurture him and nurse him back to health. And after that, he was very different with me. So he and I had a real special bond throughout his life. And he was, he's a real character. So there's all kinds of funny incidents that we had, and they're all detailed in the book. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them. And so that portion of the book reads a lot like Marley and Me. It's just an entertaining story about a dog and his family. But then when he passed away, the thing was, once we bonded, well, even before that, yeah, I guess once we bonded, because before that, it wasn't necessarily all that warm of a relationship. But once we bonded, I knew it was something really special. And I had lots of, well, not lots, but I had a number of dogs as a child, and they ended up being somewhat traumatic experiences for me because they were taken away from me. I never actually had a dog for its whole life. Every one of them got taken away from me for one reason or another. So when I had this opportunity to bond with this special little Chihuahua mix, knowing that he was going to be there and he wasn't going to be taken away from me, I definitely made every effort to appreciate every moment with him, which I did. There was never a day that I didn't just absolutely adore him and take at least a moment to appreciate the time that I had with him. And so obviously when he passed, I knew it was going to be a very difficult experience. And of course it was, but within a fairly short period of time of him passing, I began to realize that what I was really struggling with wasn't the loss, even though I was obviously struggling with the loss, not having him in my life on a day-to-day basis anymore. That was huge pain. But as any dog lover, anybody in general can relate. But I realized that I was struggling with his existence. I grew up in an agnostic family, and I didn't really have any firm beliefs about the afterlife. If anything, I had tried on a number of religions growing up, mostly in college, and then into not long after college, and no religions ever really took for me. Nothing wrong with religion, but for me, it just didn't jive. And so I had come to the conclusion that for me, spirituality was going to have to just be a very personal relationship with God, and whatever that meant. And it was very, just, undefined. And that was the best I could do. I tried to make a definition of it, and it never did happen for me. And that was fine. I was good with that right up until I lost my dog, because now all of a sudden I had this sweet little dog that I absolutely adored and would have literally died for. I would have jumped in front of a truck for that dog, or taken a bullet for the dog. In fact, there's a chapter in there that said I would take the name of the chapter is I'd take a bullet for you, little buddy. And to have him gone and not know that he's okay, the idea that this sweet little dog no longer exists, just the concept of it was so absurd. Didn't make any sense to me. So I found myself on a quest to get either some comfort or maybe some peace about that. Mostly comfort. I found a book called Animals and the Afterlife by Kim Sheridan. I found it on Amazon, and I realized I just was looking for some comfort. I punched in Amazon animals in the afterlife, just the idea, fiction, nonfiction. I didn't care. I just wanted to read about animals being okay in the afterlife. So I read this book, and the book, which I highly recommend, by the way, it's a wonderful book. The book is written by a naturopathic doctor, a successful one who had a lot of psychic ability from the time she was young, but never, she never ended up doing anything with it professionally, but she had that ability, and that awareness transferred into her life with her animals. And so she talks about animal communication, which, if your listeners aren't aware of what that is, basically that's like an animal medium that's able to communicate with animals in incarnated and also that have passed on. And so there's that, which at the time was foreign to me. The whole concept of it was like, what? I mean, it was sounding pretty good at the time, because it's like, wow, I could communicate with my baby here if this is true. But then there was also talk like reincarnation. She'd experienced animals reincarnating, which that really intrigued me, because the idea of him coming back to me was like would have been a dream come true, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I read this book, and it just really opened me up to the possibilities, because it was either she was making it all up and she was just a charlatan, which I didn't get that feeling. She was crazy, or it was real. And if it was real, it was something that I absolutely had to explore. So I did. And I ended up doing some sessions with animal communicators myself. And they didn't all knock my socks off, because I was in a position where I wasn't just looking for your typical comfort. I was needing the type of a session that would actually blow my mind and give me some information that was so specific that it convinced me that this is actually real, which really wasn't fair to the animal communicators, because their job isn't to convince you of their legitimacy. Their job is to give you a communication with your dog. And if your dog happens to say, I love you and I miss you and I'm here, I'm still with you, that's something that they almost always say, right? It's not very
Yep.
convincing, but it is a common message, because it's true. And but I was looking for more than that, and I got it. I ended up on the third reading I did. I just had this amazing reading with this woman who I was on the phone with her in California, and she was in Iowa. And and so she's old school. She doesn't. I don't even think she has a voicemail. I think it's an actual answering machine. I don't. She doesn't. She did have a website at one point, and then she just let it go away. So it's like it's all word of mouth with her. Her name's Sandy Kaska, Kaska. You could find her on the net. But she gave me a reading that just the information that she delivered to me via Tyson was so specific and so accurate, and it was so unique to him. I won't get into too much detail on that, because I want people to read about it, but it was pretty awesome. And it I wouldn't say that I was 100% convinced at that point, but I definitely, that there was a chink in the armor. It definitely got me to open up. And then from there, I did more exploring. I ended up doing a reading with an actual medium, and I was just very lucky. There's a lot of good mediums out there, but finding the right one is not always easy, right? And I had a friend who knew this medium, Lisa Silverman, who you can also find her on the internet. Decorator Guru is her website, because she also does interior design. Oh, and by the way, Sandy is an attorney, so that to me gave some credibility. They're
Sure.
clearly not doing that just to make some money off of people, off false hope. They don't need the money. They have lucrative jobs, so that definitely bought some credibility. But with with the reading that I had with the medium, there was so many things that came through. My uncle came through, my grandma came through, my aunt came through, and Tyson came through. And it was supposed to be a 1 hour session, ended up being a 2 hour session. And it was like literally, like, you go into a session, and most people would be blown away if they got a handful of accurate things over a 2-hour period, right? This
Right.
was 2 solid hours of nothing but accurate information. The
So
closest.
that so
Go
that
ahead.
told you that they were genuine. She was real, because there's not any way that she could have known the information that she was giving you. I had the same experience with John Edward, the psychic out of New York,
Yeah.
and he gave us information that he could not possibly know, because it wasn't anywhere. It wasn't on the internet. It wasn't anywhere in print. He Even if he knew who he was talking to, he would have no idea. That's kind of the experience you went through, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I made the when I made the appointment with her, she told me a bunch of stuff just over the phone that she was getting. Just like that's how open she was, just this open channel. That was like, wow, this is going to be a really cool reading. Like I could tell, and but the thing too is that my uncle passed away. I'm 49 now. At the time that this happened, I was 45, and it, my uncle and my grandma both passed when I was 16. So they had been long gone, way before the internet came on, and I didn't have anything about them on any of my social media. To be honest with you, they really weren't even on my radar. Not that I didn't still love them, but they were gone for so long. It wasn't something that I thought about much. And so the idea that some people say, well, is there some other way that she could have known about these people? And the answer is not, unless she was like, a member of the FBI or the CIA or something, where she had access to do all kinds of searches, and, that would be in a timely manner. I mean, she would have spent a lot more money than she made off of me by doing some background search on me. And I don't even know how she would have found the nexus to them, so,
Right.
but it was that one, that was life altering. That session, literally, I'm not exaggerating. It was life altering, because even though, like most people that have a fairly discerning, skeptical mind, I still have had at times struggled since then with, am I making this stuff up? Is this stuff really real? But it was so poignant. It was so powerful that many times, as I've struggled with my own abilities and just these concepts, I've gone back to that experience, and it's a good grounding, because it was just so powerful. And since then I've had more readings with her where other loved ones have come through, and then I've also obviously dove in a lot deeper since then. But so that when that happened, it was like, wow, this is actually real. And the love and the healing that took place during that session was incredible. There was healing that occurred that I didn't even realize I needed. And so I decided at that point, well, if this is real, and I don't think I'm ever going to be the same after experiencing this, so I need to dive in and go on my own search and quest to develop my own spiritual awareness, and potentially my own intuitive abilities, which we all have, by the way. There are people like to your point, John Edward or Lisa Silverman, that are incredibly talented, that have that. They were born with that ability, and then they chose to hone it. But we all have psychics ability, and we can all tap into it if we choose to. And I've found that myself. But so in the book, I finished the book at the end of 2019. So obviously I've had quite a bit more experiences in development since then. But I get into Reiki and the powerful healings that I was able to do just by learning that. And it just really opened me up to a whole new spiritual world that brought me so much peace, and connected me with Tyson too. That's the other thing. For people that are listening, I've had a number of people tell me that they just can't handle reading a book where the dog dies. And I get it. I understand. It is hard. I saw Old Yeller when I was like, I don't know, 5 years old or something, and
I
I
was going
never
to mention
watched
that.
it again. I never watched it again.
Oh
Um,
no, no.
but this is a very uplifting book. Yeah, there is a chapter where obviously where he passes, but he also sustains life.
Well, the interesting thing is that your life is completely changed, and it was changed by an 8-pound dog. Because how did your San Francisco cop brain wrap itself around that?
Just to clarify, I wasn't in the city. I was in the Bay Area, so the San Francisco Bay Area. I don't want to take credit where credit isn't due.
Oh no,
um,
that's okay. Okay, the Bay Area, which is where you were,
yeah,
but you were still a police officer.
yeah. So you know, yeah, it's being a cop is a whole different mentality. But you'd be surprised how many cops are open to this kind of thing. I had lots of people that I offered Reiki to and were willing to take in Reiki and after I learned it and when I would talk to them about these concepts because I'm a talker, so I would share stuff and they were a lot more open than you would think. But it you know I think part of the reason, I mean, that's a good question, but I think part of the reason you asked that is because of the stereotype of cops. Not that you're a stereotyper, but I mean, cops. I have that stereotype too, even now. Uh, you know, we moved to Florida, and now I'm always looking for cops. I don't want to get stopped.
Nope, nope.
Is
Well,
it,
I was kind of referencing because John Edward will say that his family was divided into two sides. He had his mother's side that was very spiritual and very psychic driven and that sort of thing, but then there was the father's side, and he describes it as having a New York cop brain. And so I was kind of referencing that side because it is different for to be a spiritual person versus being what you a lot well that's stereotyping, but
but there are there's reasons for stereotypes because there's a lot of accuracy to it too. So I understand.
well, that's true. So, but now let's talk about you. You've since the book has come out and you have continued your work. Tell us about what you're doing now.
Well, the book came out in 2020. No, wait, 2021. Yeah, 2021. It took me a while to get it published. I'd never done something like that before, so I had to learn by the school of hard knocks. Uh, so initially, I was just continuing. I was still a police officer. I was, doing my thing there and supporting my family and trying not to get put in jail myself as a cop because and uh and just trying to survive that way. So I was that was an interesting dichotomy because on the one hand I was still doing that line of work, but when I would come home, my daily ritual was to meditate and give myself healing and that sort of thing. But eventually, for different reasons, and mostly, well, the final catalyst was COVID and the vaccine mandates and that sort of thing ultimately made us leave the state of California. But up until that point, I was still just kind of juggling the two. And to be honest, I guess if you're a cop who happens to be blown open from birth, it probably would be pretty natural just to be able to do both, or although you probably wouldn't become a cop in that situation. But if you're trying to develop spiritually, a big part of that is opening your heart and letting your guard down, and which I found slowly. At first I thought, well, I'll just keep doing this and it'll eventually come, and it does. I mean, definitely meditating and practicing every day and connecting with spirit it is a muscle. So, and over time you get stronger at it. But I lost my train of thought there. uh,
Well,
um,
in your work and what you've been doing.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So but when I was a cop, like I was told, you're not going to be able to completely open up and connect like this until you're not a cop anymore. And the reason for that is because you've got your guard up all the time. You have to. That's part of the job. Is you're constantly on alert, and And the other thing is you're guarded just emotionally because you take a lot of heat from people.
Yep.
It's just something you accept. It's part of the job. It's not a good or bad thing. It just is. And but particularly during the last handful of years of my career, it was hard. Just with the climate the way it was, and so once I was able to stop that role, I was able to slow down and let my guard down a little bit, and it helped a lot in terms of trying to open my heart up, and which helped me to grow spiritually. It helped me to grow as a healer, all that good stuff.
And by the way, we're talking with Brandon Wainwright. He is the author of the book Tyson's Gift, and you can go to Amazon. And it's virtually everywhere, and you can pick up that book. It really is a cool story. And we need to take a break here in just a second. But when we come back, we're going to talk about how Tyson's life continues in a very unique way. I hope that you'll stay with us for this entire episode. By the way, we're going to have an animal communicator on Friday at noon, so I hope that you will tune into that episode as well. But in any event, again, Brandon Wainwright, go to tysonsgifthealing.com, and you can find out all about the book and the work that he does, and you can actually hook up with him and work with him. And that would be because he can do what he does, because it's just energy. He can do what he does virtually anywhere. So I would encourage you to do that. And we need to take a break real quick. And you're listening to Positive Talk Radio on KKNW 1150. Hey there. I'm excited that you're listening right now. And if you like what we're doing here, you're going to love positivetalkradio.net. On positivetalkradio.net, each show, which is recorded live, is packed with positive information, with real people discussing real issues and positive solutions that can work for everyone. I hope that you'll join us on positivetalkradio.net and listen to all 340 plus shows. I think it's worth your time. But then, that's just me. That's positivetalkradio.net, your home for great progressive positive podcasts.
When you want to say more than words communicate, you can with flowers. Your custom boutique floral studio in Bothell, Washington is anaturaldesign.com, connecting you to nature through the language of flowers. Where your people are is where our flowers are beautiful. Your success is our goal. anaturaldesign.com at your fingertips today.
Hey, my friend. I'd really like to thank you for listening to the show today. As you may know, I started Positive Talk Radio way back in 2003. We were one of the first shows on KKNW. For 11 months, I was fortunate to be part of many lives, making a positive difference with great interviews and discussions, creating new thoughts and ideas. Sadly, for financial reasons, I had to terminate the show. Well, it took 18 years, but we're back better than ever. And not only on KKNW Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, but also podcasting with several inspiring channels with the same driving passion as the original. Please visit kmmedia.pro for complete information about all of these shows. In addition, if you feel called to keep positive programming on the air, you can join us by sponsoring the show and aligning yourself with our mission, which is nothing short of saving the planet and each other. Again, that's kmmedia.pro. I'll see you there. And welcome back to Positive Talk Radio. And it's a Wednesday afternoon. It is drive time. And I hope everybody's having a good day or had a good day at work. We're talking with Brandon Wainwright. It's past drive time where he's at because he's all the way over in Florida. And he's written the book, Tyson's Gift. It's about his best buddy, an 8-pound canine, and it became a catalyst for an entire change of venue, a change of life, a change of career, everything that everything an 8-pound dog can do, Tyson did, and much more. And it really is cool story. And so Brandon is here. And by the way, if you want to go to Tyson's gifthealing.com, you can learn all about him, his work, and what he's doing. And Brandon, again, I want to thank you for so much for being on the show. And I got a very important question to ask you that I know you've done a lot of research on, and that is this: there are people among us who do not believe an animal has a soul. As hard as that is for me to believe, there are people that believe that. What would you say to them?
Well, I don't want to, you know, uh, obviously everybody's entitled to their opinion on things. But I will tell you that they do. I mean, I've experienced it firsthand, um, through the communication that I've done, through reincarnations that I've experienced myself, and so I know that is, for some folks, that is a popular opinion, but it's simply not true. Everything has a soul. We're all here on Earth. We're here to learn. We're here to evolve. We're here to, hopefully bring light to the world, in our own little small way. Uh, that's what I'm trying to do with the book, and I'm going to write a second one. I'm trying to get up the nerve to start it, and then also the healing business that I've got. It's part of the reason I'm doing that. It's not just to have a business and to help people. It's to expose folks to the reality that we're all energy, and that, and like to your point, what you were saying at the end of the last segment, distance has no bearing on energy.
Right.
Spiritual energy can, if you told me, you had an elbow pain or something like that, you're in Washington, I'm in Florida, I could give you a healing, and it would be just as effective as if you were sitting on my table here in my healing room. It's literally, in some cases, I think it's actually even more effective, because people kind of just go with it, and they're not all torqued up by the fact that I'm, hovering my hands over them or something. But we're all a part of that, is my point. Animals, humans, even insects, I believe, but certainly, I know, if you have a hard time believing that animals don't have a soul, or do have a soul, you're probably going to have an even harder time believing insects have a soul.
Well, unless it's a spider, I don't think spiders have souls, but that's
No.
just me.
Yeah. But yeah, no, to your question, the answer to your question is absolutely, animals have souls. And some people believe that animals come from a group soul. I've actually been taught this in formal settings, where they come from a group soul. So, if one animal experiences something, that experience gets transferred to the whole. And I think that's an interesting concept too, because we're all part of God.
Yeah.
We're all connected to God. So there is a certain group consciousness that's there. What I'm talking about here is that they literally are all part of the same, like, hive brain, which
Right.
I personally don't subscribe to that idea. I've been taught it by people that I respect, and so that's one of the things about spirituality too that's kind of nice, spiritualist or metaphysics, as opposed to religion, is that you take what resonates with you, and let the other stuff go if it doesn't resonate with you. Animals absolutely have a soul, and I believe that they're here evolving just like we are.
I agree with you 100%. As a matter of fact, there's a show on KKNW on Sunday morning from 9 till noon, and it's on Martha Norwalk's Animal World, and she will tell you and that she has animals that have come back to her after they've passed away and are reincarnated, if you will, into a different animal that she is caring for now. Have you ever heard of that kind of a concept?
I've experienced it. Yeah.
Oh, you have you?
Sure.
Well, do tell.
Firsthand. Well, I don't. Well, I don't want to get into too much detail on that, but Tyson. You know what? I don't care. I don't. I'm just going to let it out there. That way, when you read the book, you won't be so sad when Tyson passes away. Tyson reincarnated. Yes,
Cool.
absolutely, he did. And
How did that happen?
how?
I mean, not how did he reincarnate it, but I'm always fascinated by the concept of, okay, so your dog passes, his soul goes to heaven. They decide that he's going to come back. How do they work it out so that you guys get to meet again?
I don't know.
I-
So the universe is a perfect machine. There is no waste. Everything is orchestrated to perfection. Even the things that are dark, even the things that you think are, that are unsavory, things that you wouldn't want to see happen. There is a balance to things, and everything happens like a machine. Everything's orchestrated. So, yeah, I'm sure most people, I know certainly for me, if I look back on my life pre-awakening, pre 2018, I can look at different aspects, different experiences that I had that were clearly orchestrated, where they felt fated, where everything just kind of clicked into place, where I felt like I was being guided by a higher source,
Yep.
and I think people might want to, skeptics might want to dismiss that, but I think if you slow down and you take it in and you look at things objectively, you'll see that happens. It happens to everybody. We're all part of this. So and I don't know exactly how it works, to be honest with you. I don't know. I think time and space is just a construct that allows us to experience and perceive our world in this physical dimension. But I don't know how the energy gets to you exactly. I just know that it does. you know,
Exactly, especially with the work that you do with Reiki and some of the other energy modalities. It is, I mean, energy is everywhere.
Yeah.
Einstein proved it. Tesla proved it.
It's measurable.
And it's measurable.
Yeah,
And
I actually, I'm now Reiki. I'm doing a little Reiki here and there, but I've started doing a lot of other modalities. They're all on my website too. So, um, so yeah, it's definitely, it's measurable. I actually had a doctor call me a researcher, a psychiatric researcher, neuropsychologist, and he wanted me to do like a trial where I was doing energy healing, and he said, you don't have to try and convince me. He says we actually can measure it. So
wow.
So it's not, this isn't a question of if. It definitely exists. I don't know exactly how it works. I think these, like I was saying, everybody has these abilities. My abilities, in terms of my spiritual metaphysical abilities is primarily, at least now, it's primarily energy healing. I'm able to channel energy really effectively and powerfully for some reason. It's just something that's came natural to me. Some other people might be clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient. I'm clairsentient too. Most people are actually clairsentient. I think that's the most common one. But everybody has it. It's like you ask yourself, well, how do I move my leg exactly? How does that work? That there's neurons firing into your brain and allowing you to move your leg, but you don't know precisely how that all works, right?
Nope.
Most people don't. Some people do, but most people don't. But it still happens, and that's, I've come to just accept it because I see it's hard. When you live in this world and you experience it on a daily basis, you can't just dismiss it. It's
No, not anymore in your world. And even the human body or the brain, we don't really know yet still how the brain actually functions the way that it functions, and the memories and the synapses and all that stuff, how it all really, really works. And we still poo poo things like energy and stuff, which we really shouldn't be doing, because that's the essence of who we are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but that I agree with you. You're poo-pooing reality, but we're also conditioned to only
Yes.
trust what we see.
But
And,
you were talking about growing up before you had this metamorph, or this transition, if you will. And but I would suggest to you that if you were to look at your life, your from beginning till now, all of it lines up with gaining the experience and the thoughts and the abilities to take you to where you are today. So
yeah,
it's not something that is out there. It's like I'll tell you that I learned how to do what I'm doing today when I was 10, and have been honing my gifts that whole time, learning different things, how to act, how to talk to people, how to interview people, how to do all kinds of stuff, long before I ever thought. If you'd have told me 20 years ago that I'd be here today, I'd have said you're high.
yeah. Well, me too. John high. You're you're high on multiple drugs.
Yeah, so but it's and we are and we're you are no more unique than I am, and
No.
we all do that. We're all
Oh,
capable of the same thing.
I'm glad you brought that up. Is one of the things that I struggled with when I first started all this is that you know I was doing it for just for the obvious reason that I knew that there's this other reality, or that I hadn't paid attention to, that I wanted to hone my experience in. I wanted to be able to articulate it better. I wanted to be able to interface with it and actually consciously experience it. But I also, when I got into the healing, I wanted to help people. From the start, I was very drawn to the healing arts, and that comes from a place of wanting to help, right? But there was also a lot of ego mixed in there, and that comes from. I mean, I think if most people, when they choose to a pursuit of some kind, there's a lot of ego mixed in there. Oh, I'm going to master this, and I'm going to do this and that. I'm going to accomplish all this stuff. That's what our society teaches us to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. It ensures our ability to survive and provide for ourselves, and but when it comes to this stuff, it's counterproductive. It's the energy travels through you. You're a better conductor if you don't have that baggage there.
Right.
When you're doing it, well, that's what I was saying. You approach it with an open heart. That's why. I mean, not only is it a much richer experience for everybody, especially the practitioner, but it makes you a much more effective healer by opening your heart and dealing with that ego. And part of that process, this is the point I was trying to get to, is that you realize that you're not special. I'm not special. I'm just another cog in the wheel. I'm special in the sense that I'm just as special as everybody else. But you, everybody from the most powerful masters down to somebody that's just incarnating for the first time. There's another concept, reincarnation. Uh, we're all equal. We're all part of God's plan. And if we can wrap our brains around that and our hearts around that, not only does it give us a richer experience and help us to feel more close to our fellow man or animals or whoever, but it also it contributes to a better world when
I
when you can open yourself up that way. And so yeah, the ego is necessary, but it's also something that needs to be kept in a healthy perspective.
And when you're aware, like you are now aware. There was a time when you weren't as aware, but you're more aware now of what consequences ego can have, and the good parts of it, and how it needs to be in check. And I would submit to you that the reason that what makes you special in what your healing arts do is that you trust it. You believe it. You know it.
Yeah. And that's a, that's a process too. Because your ego and your skeptical mind, tries to play tricks on you and prevent all that. And even, I'll tell you, that's been one of the hardest struggles. Is even, I mean, I had my first major healing with Reiki. Like I would do things and heal somebody's ache and pain or whatever. But the first major healing that I had with Reiki was like when I was just starting. And I read about this in the book too. I healed a lady in Ohio when I was in California that had really chronic migraines to the point where she dropped out of college and stuff. It was my friend's daughter. Um, and even with experience like that, and then, cumulatively, I've had lots more obviously since then. There's still that skeptical mind that wants to crunch its way in and say, nah, it was all just a fluke.
Well, and not only that is that there are people in your world, or maybe not today, but there were at one point that would say, "Oh, Brandon, you can't, you're going to go off the deep end here. What are you doing? You got a good career, you're doing what you're doing, and then you know what I mean." And
I'm actually dealing with that more than ever right now.
I can understand it. It is a process of discovery for yourself and also the people that are around you, because it becomes different. You are no longer the man that you were 2 or 3 years ago, and that's by design. That's
Yeah.
by your own design before you even got here.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree. You have a life plan, a life mission, and yeah, and let me tell you, it's not for the faint of heart. It has been wonderful and beautiful, but it's really difficult. I it caught me at a time when I'm struggling with it more than ever right now with people around me, yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. But the thing is, once you experience these things, you can't really turn back. I mean, you can, I suppose, but it's not like you were taught something and you accepted it and then one day realized, I'm not so sure about that, and then you decide to let it go. No, this is something where it's there, and you can, of course, you can choose to walk away from it and just go back to your normal everyday, what's in front of your face all the time existence. But that's, that would be hard too, because you're choosing to deny what you know to be true, what you've experienced. And that's, but by staying on that track, the people around you, the people that you've been close to throughout your life, family members, friends, they're on a different wavelength than you now. Some of
mhm.
them, and some of them are just fine with it, and then others really struggle with it, or even think what you're doing is dark, or
Oh, well,
or
there is
or
that.
that you're opening yourself up to, dark energies that you can be manipulated if you're not doing things exactly the way conventions say that you should be doing it. And that's hard. That's it, it's a
Absolutely,
struggle.
absolutely. Can I tell you a quick story?
Of course.
Uh, well, I, when I was doing Positive Talk Radio before in 2003, and there were people around me in my sphere that were like, "You were a district sales manager for a major food company. You had 12 people who reported to you. You left all that and to do this radio thing, and you thought you could make it through advertising. Well, it's not working, and our savings are dwindling, and all this and." So eventually I had to quit doing Positive Talk on KKNW at that time. But the last day I did the show, Brandon, I'm telling you, the last day I did the show, I announced it was a 2 hour show, and I announced that this was going to be the last day. There are people that are listening today who may remember that show, and the phone lines filled up.
Well,
Because you're in a studio and you're by yourself, or you're with a board op, and it was oftentimes with just Eric and me and a guest that would be in there, and you don't know if anybody's listening, you don't know if you're having any impact on anybody.
Yeah.
You have no earthly idea, because you're not getting any feedback, you're not getting immediate feedback.
Yeah.
And so I was so the phone lines filled up, and one lady said, I can't believe you're going off the air. I'm sitting here looking at a pile of books that I bought because of your show, because of all the great guests that you've had on and the people that I'm learning. Another person said, I had breast cancer. I was dying. And now I'm feeling much better because of Jerry Armour. Some of you will remember Jerry Armour and Nita Bishop and some of the others that were on the show. And then and it began to sink in that what we were doing had meaning. It was positive. We were trying to help people live their lives a little bit better, and it had meaning. And then one gal gets on and she says, "Hi, I forget her name, but she said we're from Bainbridge Island, and I just want you to know we listen to your show every day."
Huh.
And I said, "Well, thank you. That's very nice." And she said, "No, you don't understand. I'm an Alzheimer's caregiver, and you reach her still. You're one of the few things that does reach her. You're important to our lives because you give her a sense of meaning, a sense of purpose, and a place to be." And then it dawned on me that this was my calling. This is what I was supposed to be doing. Very much like the process, but then I quit that and I went through what I call my bad country music period of time. I went through a 3 or 4 year period of time that was less than pleasant, shall we say. But in looking at the long game, it's all worked out perfectly well. I'm where
Yeah.
I want to be. I'm where I should be. And so there's the ups and downs even with it. Just because you become a spiritual person doesn't mean that there isn't going to be those challenges that you're going to have to deal with from time to time. And
No, actually, it's been much more challenging, to be honest with you.
it is.
Yeah.
It would be very easy. It would have been very easy for me to go back after I did that 11 months on KKNW. It would have been very easy for me to go back to selling food for Cisco or U.S. Food Service and just bury myself in the work, forget about all of the spiritual stuff, and just let it be. But I was not able to do that because they wouldn't let me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so from that so hang with it, be tough.
Yeah. I mean, and to your point too, what you're saying is everything in the wash, everything worked out well. The things aren't always what they appear to be. And, in the big scheme of things, and there is a plan, there is no waste in the universe. It's hard to remember that sometimes when you're in the thick of the storm. I'm in the thick of the storm in my life. So I believe me, I know this to be true, but it ultimately, it does work out the way it's meant to. And so anybody that's out there right now that's struggling, with whatever's going on in their life, know that there is a plan and that things will work out for you. And just try to listen, tap into that voice of God, and however you may do that, and listen for that affirmation, listen for that guidance.
And it will, in the long run, work out exactly how it's supposed to be. Have faith in that, trust in that, know that, because it will. And by the way, we've got to run, sadly, but I want to get your information out again. Brandon's Gift is the name of the book.
No,
Buy the book.
no, it's called
Tyson's Gift.
It's called Tyson's Gift. And there's tysonsgifthealing.com. That's my healing practice, and it's got the different modalities that I offer. There's some really cool ones in there that might blow your mind. So I encourage you to check it out. You can get to my book from there. There's a link there, but I also have a website that's dedicated to the book called tysonsgift.com. So tysonsgift.com, tysonsgifthealing.com. And I also have a podcast that's on WLTKDB Talk Radio. That's a internet radio station, and it's called the Tyson's Gift Podcast. And it's on Thursdays, 4 p.m. Pacific. So every Thursday, and it's focused on all things spiritual, metaphysical. So it could be anything from animal communication to paranormal to energy healing to mediumship to you name it. In fact, I'm going to have you on there.
Yes, you are, darn it.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah. But everything's Tyson's Gift because, it all originated with him. he still encourages me every day.
It is amazing to me what simple thing an 8-pound dog is and what it can do for you for your entire life. And by the way, I said Brandon's gift. I meant that because you have been a gift to me and our audience today. And I truly appreciate you.
Good recovery.
It took me, I thought about that for a whole minute.
No, I appreciate that. I'm just trying, I have no delusions of grandeur. I'm just trying to share what I've experienced with the world to the best I can. I probably could be a lot more aggressive with this, but it's not really my nature. So I'm just trying to just slowly, maybe affect one person at a time, because as you were explaining, the people that called in on that last broadcast you had, every one of those people, to them, the impact that you had was a big deal.
It was. There are people, and by the way, I got to tell you, Brandon, they're gonna shut me down right now. So
good.
Thank you for listening, everybody. We'll see you on Friday.